Truth is, I thought it mattered. I thought that
money
mattered. But does it bollocks? Not compared to how people matter.
Welcome, Mention and other fine folks, to the Someday Dispatch of the Black Letter, where we contemplate thoughts worth thinking as we try and wind our way through the topsy-turvy and hopefully stay healthier, wealthier and wiser, or at least coming out of it at the end that way. We've got a bunch of things on the agenda today. This is going to be sort of a smorgasbord of stuff, if you will. We're going to take a look at Beyond Burgers, how they might be healthier for you than regular burgers. We're going to take a look at, we're going to gaze into the universe and into our solar system as well. NASA finally reveals the shape of our solar system, and it's not particularly flattering or especially awesome, but it is unusual and interesting nevertheless. We'll also take a quick look at the US weekly jobless rates and what that might be suggesting, as well as the stock market. And then we'll take a look at the health benefits of running, and a guy who's been doing running for a long time just set a new record on the mile, for a sub 6-minute mile for a 70 to 75-year-old, I think, or no, 75 to 79-year-old. And we'll have a look-see. Anyway, just a bunch of different things. You know, the markets, the economy's been doing what it's been doing. And sometimes I think it's helpful not to just to focus on that all the time. There's a whole big world out there full of other possibilities and interests and things of that nature. So I thought we'd take a little sidetrack today. So let's get going. Eating beyond burgers instead of meat can improve health, says a major new study. They improved several cardiovascular disease risk factors. There were no adverse effects on risk factors from the plant products. Now, as you know, I'm vegan for ethical reasons, but I think that veganism or plant-based eating also comes with a lot of health benefits, especially compared to the standard American diet, which is what, unfortunately, most people are eating. So the study set out to compare the effect of consuming plant-based alternative meat as opposed to animal meat on health factors. 36 participants in the single-site randomized crossover trial received plant and animal products, dietary counseling, lab assessments, microbiome assessments, and anthropometric measurements. They were instructed to consume more than 2 servings of plant protein compared with animal for 8 weeks each, while keeping all other foods and beverages as similar as possible between the 2 phases, says the study. So they weren't actually asked to become plant-based for the full first 2 weeks, and there have been studies that have done that, and they have tremendous improvements on all sorts of biomarkers and weight loss. Dr. John McDougall, I've mentioned before, has I think a 7 or 10-day live-in program where you actually become plant-based or vegan, if you will, in diet specifically for the full days, and the results are actually quite remarkable. Anyway, this is interesting nonetheless. So here are some of the health benefits that they achieved. When the healthy adult participants swapped their protein from animal to plant-based meat, they experienced improvements in a myriad of health markers, and there's a bunch of them. LDL cholesterol was lower, TMAO as well also was reduced. And then they also lost 2 pounds on average during the plant-based portion of the study. Now, one thing to be aware of is who pays for these studies, and of course this was funded by an unrestricted gift from Beyond Meat and used products from the company. So there you go. I'm always a little bit skeptical of studies that have been funded by, for example, the dairy industry or the meat industry that show that meat or dairy eating is beneficial. One needs to take this study with a bit of a side-eye look at it as well, pinch of salt. It's a good start, but we need to have many more studies. Nevertheless, we do know there's an abundance of studies out there that low-fat vegan diet, or at least a predominantly plant-based diet, is beneficial to all sorts of health improvements. This includes things like lowering your cholesterol, blood pressure, weight loss to some degree, and also helping stack the cards in your favor against certain cancers, heart disease, etc., etc. I'm not suggesting that Beyond Meat burgers are particularly healthy. They're not, in my opinion, though I do enjoy them probably once a week or so as part of a generally overall healthy diet. Of course, one has to have some enjoyment in life. You can't just eat, salads and fruits and legumes and nuts all the time. I suppose you could, but food is so social part of our being that it's difficult just to be hardcore about it all the time. So I do have a couple of plant-based junk food treats occasionally. So, I think if you were swapping out your regular burgers for Beyond Meat burgers, that would probably be a good step in the direction. Something for you to consider. I think there's lots of benefits to a plant-based diet, or at least eating predominantly plant-based most of the week. So if you're interested, you can, of course, find lots of information on that, and I'm happy to answer questions below too. Astronomers may have found a star that's just 33 years old. The star is a 90s kid, really. So this is kind of neat. I'm always interested in what's out there in the universe. I like to think that we're not alone here. In fact, I think we aren't alone. I mean, just the possibilities, just the mathematical possibilities of there being other advanced or sentient life on other planets just seems, in a universe the size that it is, that you would expect as much. However, there's also the Fermi's paradox, if you're not familiar with that, which asks the question that if there are so many different planets and stars out there, then the probabilities that just out of randomness sentient life would have evolved on one of those planets is astronomically high. But yet we don't see them. So why is that? And it's an interesting sort of conundrum. Okay, and so here on Wikipedia you can see the Fermi paradox is the apparent contradiction between the lack of evidence for extraterrestrial civilization and various high estimates for their probability, for example here, right? So, and then it goes into why there are no aliens that we found. And generally it suggests that we destroy ourselves, or intelligent life destroys itself before it gets to that stage where it can explore beyond its solar system. That's my limited understanding. You can have a read of the article if you're interested, but nevertheless I thought that was neat. And I've always, of course, I think we all have been drawn to the stars and the moon just to see what's out there, and that's why we had folks land on the moon, and now hopefully in Mars in my lifetime. I'd love to see that. Astronomers have observed what they believe to be a neutron star being born following a supernova first detected in 1987 in a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way 170,000 light years from Earth, dubbed SN 1987A. I wish they would name these things more like Star Trek names, and maybe Star Wars planet names. That would be more fun. But they have, obviously, I don't understand the naming convention, but there must be some reason and rationale to it. If confirmed, it would be the youngest neutron star known to mankind. To date, the youngest supernova remnant is the 330 years old Cassiopeia A. According to computer models, the neutron star would have been sent screaming through space at hundreds of kilometers per second. The location where the ALMA team found it is exactly where it would be today, according to the models. So this is pretty cool. I'm always interested in this, and I think, you know, stories we tell ourselves, looking into the universe, really, which is looking into the past in many ways. As I've said before, understanding history can help you see more clearly into the future. And so perhaps I like to think one day humanity will develop into perhaps a post-capitalist society, much like Star Trek. So I'm always drawn to sci-fi and the universe and the potential future that might bring. So I thought that was interesting. And of course here, NASA has revealed the strange shape of our solar system, which is a deflated croissant. Here you can see this is what our solar system looks like. Show you just a little bit of this. More if you want. So it's quite an unusual looking croissant, if you will. It kind of reminds me a little bit, looks to me a little bit like the inner ear here, as you can see this sort of part here somehow. That's what that came to my mind as looking at, but there you have it. Sort of interesting nevertheless. Who would have thought that? It's an odd shape, that's for sure. The new findings come after researchers used data from a variety of NASA missions to plot out the shape of the magnetic bubbles surround all of the planets in our system. The new findings come after researchers used data from a variety of NASA missions to plot out the shape of the magnetic bubble that surrounds all of the planets in our system. Traditionally, depictions of that bubble have shown it as something like a comet with a rounded leading edge and a long tail behind it. But in fact, it appears to be a much stranger shape, like a croissant that has been badly baked, or an ear. And that's what I thought. It looks like the inner ear. It is hard to get a picture of the bubble known as the heliosphere from inside. The nearest edge to us is some 10 billion miles away, and only 2 objects made by humanity have been able to get near it, when both the Voyager spacecraft traveled out of our solar system and into interstellar space. But researchers are able to get a picture of the bubble from the inside by looking at particles that fly towards Earth. A NASA mission known as the Interstellar Boundary Explorer uses them as something like a radar, watching for how they bounce off the edges to understand where the edge might be. Of course, links are in the description, and you can watch the rest of this video, and it sort of shows you how they've developed that approach. So it's quite interesting. I sometimes like to watch videos and posters. I think I'm quite a visual learner, so that helped me, and you can check that out in the description below. So US weekly jobless claims fall below 1 million, labor market pain far from over. So we know that from yesterday's video. We saw the claims came in at about 963,000 or something like that. But that was likely as the expiration of a $600 weekly supplement discouraged some from filing claims. I mean, that's an interesting take on it. I mean, would you, if you were unemployed, would you not file your claim? I mean, I don't think I would, because obviously you need the money if you're unemployed. So I'm not sure that really holds a lot of water. On the other hand, maybe they're just postponing it. We're waiting until, you know, some of this Trump executive order or this new stimulus package was passed. So perhaps, as I suggested yesterday, I think what we'll see is the unemployment figures will start to rise next week, and certainly within a couple, 3 weeks, I would think. Data from payroll scheduling and workforce management firms suggest a decline in employment in early August. Part of the reason for reduced filings look to be tied to the expiration of the $600 weekly turbo boost, says the chief economist Chris Rupke at MUFG in New York. There were big declines in claims last week in Florida, Georgia, and California, some of the states that have been hardest hit by new waves of coronavirus infections. So that's interesting and seems unintuitive. So I wonder what the reasoning is for that. We'll have to find out, I guess. A payroll scheduling and tracking company showed a decline in employment last week as well. So there's a lot of these sort of issues going on where employment is declining. So we probably will see the increase in new claims increasing then, obviously. While the loss of the supplement might have helped to push weekly jobless claims down, economists estimate it will reduce household income by roughly $75 billion per month. So that's interesting, because obviously the consumer is about 60-70% of the American economy, I believe, the GDP. So $75 billion a month is a lot of money. That's going to be just shy of $1 trillion, or in a year's time, if it continues that way. Of course it won't, but it's going to have an effect too on the recovery, no doubt. The Dow just had its best 100 days since 1933. Here's what that means, and we know that. Even with the quiet day, where they're talking about, I think, this last couple of days, the stock market has had a rally for the ages. The S&P 500 has climbed 51% since bottoming on March 23rd, while the Dow has risen 50%, which is their best 100-day gains since 1933. The Nasdaq has gained 62%, its biggest 100-day rally since 2000, the peak of the dot-com bubble. The Nasdaq has more than erased all its losses, and the S&P 500 is just a hair beneath its all-time high. So obviously, this is showing the cracks in the foundation, because there is, well, if there is a foundation even upon which the stock market is being bubble-fied, if I can say that. And that suggests that perhaps the bear market wasn't actually a bear market. So this is an interesting comment, right? So now we're going to say, oh no, this is just continuation of the bear market. It was just a long overdue correction. I doubt that. I think we're in for just a catastrophic decline in the stock markets at some point. It has to happen. These markets are untethered to reality. And the reality is the economy is suffering, as are people. And we're going to start seeing these companies start suffering as well because of it. And I think we'll see it in the tech markets here too. They had a great boost because everyone was at home. And that's going to be not long-lived. We would characterize the COVID crash as a correction that did not, after all, end the bull market that started in 2009. So there you have it, folks. Nothing to see here. Everything is hunky-dory. Forget the 50 million people that filed unemployment claims over the last 20 so weeks. That's just a blip in the market. Everything's going to be back and hunky-dory by the election. I doubt that very much. Okay, so I thought this was neat. 75-year-old Nebraska man just broke 6 minutes in the mile, set an American, I believe, record for the 75 to 79 age group. Lynn Rathjen, a high school cross-country coach and retired physical therapist in Grand Island, Nebraska, has been running consistently for the past 40 years. He set an American 75 to 79 record for the road mile, running 5:59.18, which is terrific. He took off 17 seconds from the previous record at 6 minutes and 17 seconds. When you see people in this age group, when you get into the 60s and 70s, there's more camaraderie than there is competition, he said. People, they realize you don't know how long you're going to live. You just kind of enjoy everybody in the competition. That's the way I look at it. So there he is, doing well, keeping fit and trim, as you can see. I really love running because it's an easy, cheap, inexpensive sport and has tremendous health benefits. Of course, as you get older, I would also recommend some anaerobic training, some weight training, that sort of thing, just to keep the muscles strong as well. Of course, running will help keep many of your muscles strong enough, but I think as you get older, having stronger muscles is not necessarily a bad thing. So there you have it, folks. That's running for you. And if you're interested in starting running, I would just encourage you just to get going. Just start off slow, aim for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Go run for a minute, walk for a minute, run for a minute, or when I say run, jog, shuffle your feet, whatever you are, do a faster walk, and then take a break. And do that repeatedly for 10, 15 minutes. And then slowly over time, build that up to 20, 30 minutes, however far you want to go. Even still today, I like to do a walk-run sort of system when I'm out there jogging, which means I basically run for 5 minutes, anywhere between maybe 5 and 10 minutes, and then walk for a minute. But just take your time, just start off slow. And, it's a wonderful habit to get into, and it's a wonderful, for me, very meditative experience. Okay, let's take a look at the markets, see how they're doing today. Okay, it's a little bit of a mixed bag so far. The Dow's just barely down, NASDAQ down a little bit more, and the S&P barely up. So this is practically flat, at least for the Dow and the S&P. NASDAQ's down a little bit. NASDAQ really needs comeuppance. Well, all of them do, but there you have it so far. Let's take a look at gold. And here's gold for you, kind of taking a pause today, not doing much, but still up 27% year to date, which is terrific. And here's a silver, just up over 50% year to date, and down again a little bit. I think what's going to happen here, we'll have a consolidation, which will be somewhat of a perhaps a bull flag, and then from there we'll have another leg up when the stock market starts to really tank. And this could start happening soon, I think, maybe closer to the election, maybe by the end of the year. Just my impression. We'll see what happens. Okay, on to the coin market. Okay, so up 3%. That means things are starting to improve again. $374 billion market cap, 5,902 coins. Coins increasing again. And here we have pretty much green across the board. Bitcoin up a little bit. Ethereum is really starting to take off. That's interesting to see. XRP as well. Chainlink down, of course, because it's up 61% over the past 7 days. Bitcoin Cash up a little bit. Some of these other coins as well. Binance Coin up 9%. That's an exchange if you're interested. Litecoin up a little bit. I have some of that. Some of these others as well, sort of similar. Stellar 4.6%. It's not bad. So generally some positive movements on the board here, as we can see. As you know, I'm just continuing to dollar cost in average. I think that's just the best way for me, because this is such a volatile market. When it really starts taking off, perhaps if it starts going parabolic, I might just put a pause on the dollar cost averaging. But so far, it's improving slowly. So I still am doing some dollar cost averaging. Okay, folks, that's about it. Let's wrap up the week and ask today's most pressing question to the online oracle. Okay, so as we were looking at earlier, see, astronomers may have found a star that's just 33 years old, and then we looked at the Fermi paradox as well. So I thought this would make a great question for the online oracle. So my question is there other intelligent life out there in the universe? And of course, I believe that there is. Let's see if the 8-ball economist agrees. Yes. Okay, well, that's a clear and succinct answer. We've had a couple of those in a row. So there you have it, folks. The online oracle seems to think that there are aliens out there, perhaps not green men on Mars, but I like to think that there is. It would make for a more colorful and interesting universe that we live in. Our neighbors are as intelligent as we are, and hopefully they're more peaceful than we are and less prone to violence. One can hope. Okay, well, there we have it. We'll wrap up on a Friday, and thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your comments down below. And of course, remember, let's save some money, pay down debt, and look for opportunities as they come as we wind our way through this upside down. We'll get to the other side, hopefully for a brighter future for all of us, where we'll be wealthier, healthier, and wiser. And remember, in the interim, try to be kind out there, be patient, and above all else, Dom Spiro, Spero.